the Wishbone podcast. I must say, I'm so excited to be back with my favorite old curmudgeons. Each one of them have prostate issues. First of all, Uncle T, who's probably swollen to the grapefruit size. But hey, if you've never listened to our show before, I don't want Uncle T to talk. But if you've never listened before, basically we don't talk about anything. And then toward the end, we talk about football. We're just cranky old people. Uncle T, nobody has talked more shit to me than you. But it is wonderful to see you and your grapefruit-sized prostate. How are you tonight?
Yeah, first off, I want to say hello to JT Hayes and G-Rizen, the main two guys on the 2021-22 Wishbone podcast. Holden, as always, will be the fourth wheel in this case, and the one with the least amount of knowledge. But JT Hayes, good to see you, my friend. G-Rizen, obviously great to see you. But, no, this is going to be a lot of fun. We've been talking about it for a little while. JT Hayes, we kind of teased him the last, 10 days to 14 days on the shows. And, no, I'm looking forward to it. All kidding aside, it's going to be a lot of fun. NFL season underway. We got a lot of content, a lot of fun stuff coming up. So, no, happy to get in and get this thing started.
Screw you, Uncle T. So, G-Rizen, you are not the oldest guy on the show. I'm pretty sure Uncle T is. Then JT, then you, and then I'm the young guy on this show.
Yeah.
You're not even 50 yet, are you?
I'll be 50 next May, next Memorial Day. But, yep, I'm getting there, getting close. I'm feeling it more and more close to 50 as the days goes on. I'll tell you that.
Holden, in all honesty, if there was video on this right now, I'm pretty sure people would bet you would be the oldest, to be quite honest. I mean, let's be honest.
Son.
I mean, look at your hair today. We messed with you on the earlier show. What did you do to that hair? It looks
I didn't comb it.
Well, I see that. I mean, how hard is it? Just
I went to IKEA today.
I mean, you got to let some water hit your head every day, whether you need to or not, and brush that thing. Comb it, whatever you want to call it.
I did a Nordic hairdo today.
JT don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, you guys don't need to worry about it.
We are all probably a little jealous. I mean, Holden's got some locks up there, man.
G-Rizen, let me just say this. I am extraordinarily proud of your gardening skills. Holy shamoly. Now, Uncle T gets very uncomfortable when we talk about marijuana and prostitution on this show. We're going to talk some marijuana for a second because G-Rizen was bragging about his little baby plants at the beginning of the summer. And boy, do they look gorgeous now, G-Rizen.
Yeah, it was, this is the first summer it's been legal here in Michigan to grow. So had a buddy tell me kind of how to get started, and I've learned some things along the way. And yeah, they're, the way they transform, and all of a sudden they're pretty smelly in the morning. It's I only got 2 of them, but yeah, it's interesting. It's pretty fun. I like to go out there and check them out. And I actually just had to duck them in the garage before I came on here because we're going to get a really bad storm here. I'm supposed to get some 40-mile-an-hour wind, so I got to put my money trees. My mom told me money doesn't grow on trees when I was a kid. So hey, I'm going to take a picture and tell her, yeah, I've proven you wrong.
Do you sense that Uncle T gets uncomfortable when we talk about said things?
Well, that's okay. Where he's from, it's never been legal. They haven't even had the marijuana card type thing yet. So,
let's do this. You went to me, you went to G-Rizen. Can you give my man JT the proper introduction? Let him come in with his opening.
Shut up and let me do my job, Uncle Prostate. My God, dude.
JT, how you doing?
No.
Welcome to the Wishbone.
You don't introduce JT as JT. How you doing? What kind of garbage is that? Now let me let everybody know this. You know Uncle T, you know G-Rizen, you know me. But this is what I heard. I heard that Big T was sitting there trying to make everything better, trying to figure it out. He got a knock on his door. JT goes to his front door, and you could corroborate this, whether it's true or not, Uncle T. He goes, oh, please let me do the old guys podcast. Please, because I'm sick of these young guys like Title and Rubio and the rest of them. I want to hang out with old people such as myself. JT Hayes, welcome to the show. We are so excited to have you. You bring a form of badassery that we just don't have. How are you, and how did you end up here?
My God, I am so excited to be here. I've heard about this podcast. I was on a flight about probably 10 months ago, and I decided to listen to this podcast because I always do, but I was on a flight and I hear you guys talking about me. And like Uncle T had said, In good ways, of course. Like Uncle T said, you guys have teased me a little bit on the shows. Maybe you'll come on as a guest, and then out of the blue, Big T says, hey, the guys were kind of wondering, do you feel like doing that podcast? Is it too much? Do you have a busy schedule? And I said, of course I'm busy, but for Uncle T and G-Rizen, and even you, Holden, I said I would love to do this every week. And here I am, and I couldn't be happier. I couldn't be happier for football. Baseball's winding down. Just a great night. I'm looking at Uncle T, who's really, let's be honest, he's a version of Big T in 15 years. So it's just great. And I will say one other thing. G-Rizen is not the second youngest because he's going to be 50 next year. I'm going to be 49.
Oh, shit.
We're
I'm
both
Only guy
Gemini.
that's 50 is Uncle T. The only guy that can get Social Security is Uncle T. That is amazing. Good job, Uncle T.
Here, I shouldn't tell you guys this because you donkeys are going to run with it and whoop my ass on Discord stuff. Uncle T will be 51 2 weeks from today. So I expect you guys to earmark September 21st. And I expect to Holden. I don't want like a box of edibles to show up at my front door or nothing, but G-Rizen, well, probably the same for you too. But JT, maybe if you want to, if you're feeling,
you'll be getting a gift. You'll be getting a gift, no doubt.
If you're feeling like you might want to send Uncle T maybe a little, maybe a bottle of wine or maybe a gift basket of some kind to my front door, I'd appreciate it.
I'll be feeling magnanimous, and you will get a gift that is worthy of your contributions to human life.
Now, I will say this. JSU has promised me wine for about 9 months now, and I look on my front door when I get home from work every day, hoping for a box of wine from JSU, and I get disappointed every day. So, JT, don't pull my chain now.
No. When I said, first of all, I'm going to send you a good gift, and JSU's wine is, as the kids say, sus.
What?
Because he gets that wine on Thursday night on the PGA shows, and it's either laced with something. I'm not saying it's fentanyl, but it's laced with something. It does way too much damage to a guy, even a guy, I don't want to say this, but even a guy his size, it just does way too much damage. The wine is sus. I'm going to send you something delicious, Uncle T, something delicious. I actually, believe it or not, short story, because I know we only have a little bit of time here. I belong to a wine club. An Oregon wine club. My wife and I went out to the Oregon coast and the Willamette Valley. It's not Willamette, Holden, as you would like to say.
It's also not Oregon. It's Oregon.
Listen, it's the Willamette Valley, and I'm going to send you a delicious, maybe even 2 bottles of wine from this winery. It's fantastic.
That would be greatly appreciated.
Happy early birthday, and you were
already at the top of my list, but this will just secure you. So I know Holden's not going to do nothing. G-Rizen may send me a message, say, "Hey, happy birthday, you old fuck," or something like that. But
and G-Rizen and I are both Geminis, so that's something interesting.
Oh, there you stop it! You don't pay attention to that, JT Hayes.
No, of course I don't, but I know that you do. Because the girls
know my signs
probably are interested in that.
When I have to know my signs just in case the girl's into it.
That's right.
I had to do some of that. Like, okay, I'm a Cancer now, but no. And by the way, Oregon wine sucks. You want to talk about dog shit wine? That's the stuff. That's like Virginia wine. It's on the same latitude or longitude as France. Like, it's so good. It's garbage.
In the category of things that you're wrong about,
Piss
and
water.
It's a big
that list
category.
Is long.
It's an enormous category. Saying that Oregon wines are not tasty, terribly wrong. Terribly wrong.
So, hey, G-Rizen, let's set some boundaries this year, okay? And before we set the boundaries, I forgot to tell you guys this last year. It's a very hurtful story, Uncle T. So we did our first Old Guys podcast last year, the Wishbone. And then we did the Young Guys podcast with Title and Rubio, and I'll be doing that again too. And JSU actually called me, and he goes, "Hey, man, how'd the pods go?" And I said, the Young Guys pod, that's a good podcast. I think this thing has some legs to it. But the old guys, these guys are idiots. I mean, this G-Rizen guy he won't shut up. Uncle T has no idea what he's doing. He's talking about high school basketball all the time. And JSU's like, just stick with it. Just stick with it. And you know what? We stuck with it. And now this is going to be the flagship podcast. So sorry, Rubio and Title. Things have changed 180 degrees. I mean, it's really different now. So I do have to ask you, though, what's off limits, JT? What is off limits for you to talk about on this show? We need to set boundaries. Will we go past those boundaries? Yes, but at least I'll know what makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah, there's zero chance of me giving you any of that intelligence up front. I think you're just going to have to find out and guess.
Mm-hmm. Oral, do you prefer giving or getting?
I mean, why does there have to be a preference?
Okay, G-Rizen, anything that's off limits this year for you?
You know, I'm going to have to take JT's side. I like that. You're going to have to find out. You might, I mean, it depends on the mood of the day.
Hold on. I'm going to have to find out? I do not want to find out.
You can talk about anything. What have you been able to talk about that I don't want to talk about? I mean, I'm talk about anything.
Yeah. Uncle T, anything for you that's off limits, buddy?
No, I just want you to know prior to the show each week whether or not you want to see regular Uncle T, or as you saw late in the year last year, right, Holden? And you like this quite a bit. You wanted to see vintage, old, like, like angry Uncle T. So, that's really all I need. My kids probably go back and listen to this podcast, so probably need to keep it fairly clean.
Do they really?
Sure. JT and G-Rizen both met my boys at Big T's back in March. So they listen to all the shows, not just my shows, but
Uncle T's got him some athletes. That's some boys. He's got him some athletes.
How old are your boys, Uncle T?
They're 25 and 21.
Oh, they're old enough. They know everything. They've probably done half the things I'm going to talk about.
Listen, Uncle T's like Mr. Belvedere. You know what I mean? Like they got the family thing going down. Like, their kids, they all respectful to mom and dad. Like, in my neighborhood, they're not respectful to all their parents as they kind of are a little bit more down south. So it was the respect they had for their dad was kind of cool to see that. You don't see that too much around our neighborhood.
Appreciate that. And Holden, if you get the invite next time, maybe you'll get to meet my boys and the family. But I don't know if you're going to get the invite in March. I'll have to talk to Big T. Maybe put in a good word for you.
I won't come.
Okay, then
it doesn't matter. And it has nothing to do with me not liking you.
I know you're not allowed outside of your little 3-mile radius.
All right, the truth is here. House arrest. I murdered a couple people. But
it's tough to get that ankle monitor off.
I always knew he was on witness protection. I've been saying it the whole time.
Yeah, witness protection, so I'm doing videos. So let's get to know our three guests with me. You don't need to learn anything about me. You'll learn it, but let's learn one thing about each of our co-hosts here, and then we'll get into the NFL slate. Uncle T, my question for you is about your mustache.
Why do I always have to start?
When did the mustache thing come about?
Why don't we let the new guy start?
You weren't born with a mustache. When did you decide that it would be fashionable to have said hair under your nostrils?
Well, truth be told, I've had this for quite a while. And the underlying thing of the mustache is JT's taking this is you can't see the video. JT's taking a nice good drink of his beer, just kind of sitting back waiting for this answer.
This is going to be on video.
It is on video. Even better. Beautiful. No, but
not on video. Holden's lying again.
He's probably lying again. Yeah, I know that. But no, I've had the mustache almost since high school. And the underlying thing is, like I said, you guys are going to take it and run with it. I hate shaving. It's one of the worst things I hate in my life is shaving. So, it kind of started out that way, and I kind of let it go. Hey, my wife, who I've been married to for 27 years and known for 30 of my life. Hey, Holden, JT, G-Rizen, you guys love the ladies. Hey, she liked the mustache, and hey, who am I to say, I'm going to shave it? But that was really all it is. I hate shaving. It's one of the things I hate to do, and that's kind of how the mustache thing came about.
Yeah, I hate shaving.
Kind of boring.
You hate shaving. Gee, why does your nephew always say you have a gigantic bush?
Well,
why would that be? Why would that be, Uncle T?
Yeah, I don't know where all that came from. And
you just said you don't like shaving. I mean, if you don't like shaving, then you have a gigantic bush, and that's fine.
But we got the lawnmower now.
Do you really use it?
So what do you mean? Is the Pope Catholic? What the hell you mean?
I don't know. I've never talked to him.
JT, help me out here.
You can't help. What are you going to help him with?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly how to lend assistance in this situation. and I love you, Uncle T, but I mean, when you say, "Hey, I don't like to shave, but then
Up
someone
top.
says, I mean, there's got to be one
down
or
south.
the other is true, my man. One or the other is true.
It's easier to shave your face than
Maybe
your balls.
maybe you have someone come in and use the lawnmower, and maybe you have someone manscape you.
Maybe if I was on the circuit again, like Holden, trying to date these 20-year-olds again, maybe if I was on the circuit, maybe that would be a possibility, but I'm not. Happily married, and that's probably not.
Honestly, there's just never a good reason to be unkempt, though.
I thought you were going to come up with something better than that, Holden, as far as something that people don't know about me or whatever.
I wanted to know about the mustache for a long time. Don't say you thought there was something better just because JT Hayes didn't want to back you on your gigantic pubis.
I mean,
I just said I don't know how to help. I don't know how to help. You're it is what it is. It's okay.
G-Rizen. Let's learn about G-Rizen here. G-Rizen, when was the first time you smoked marijuana?
Well, if you recall when we did my one-on-one interview at Run Pure, I told the story how when I was at the fireworks with my dad, remember I caught his cigarette pack in his members only coat. And I opened it up, and to my astoundment, to my amazement, actually, there was some joints in there with his cigarettes. So I confronted him about it. And I believe I was in 8th grade, maybe 9th grade. And so at the time, I don't think he really knew what quite to do. He asked me if I'd smoked it before. I told him no, which was the truth at the time. And I know my friends had. So I tried it out with my dad up on the roof, watching the Detroit fireworks of a bar. And so he kind of gave me the talk about it, and I went from there. And pretty much I didn't really do it until later in life, but that was the first time. I was pretty young, but then I went on to play high school sports and stuff, so I didn't think that was the right thing to do at the time, so I waited until a few years out of school.
Okay. Regret asking you that. JT, JT, have you ever killed anybody? Legally or illegally? Good question.
No.
You never killed anybody?
No.
Were you ever in the military?
No.
So you're just a civilian contractor. Very weak. Now, I don't even know. Do you want to share with us something that's very special to you that the people should know about you?
What's a civilian contractor? What does
Don't worry about
mean?
that. Don't worry about that.
I mean, what is it?
DOD stuff,
No.
Clearances, etc. Anything you'd like to share with us before we do more nonsense?
Holden, JT's Jack Bauer.
JT's Jack Bauer?
Yeah.
I don't think Jack Bauer played fantasy baseball.
Yeah, how do you know? We never saw what he did on his free time. We only saw him at work.
Good point.
I'm just saying.
I think he should live with the mystery thing.
If you start doing that, like, that song from, the 24, the emphasis on the, when they went to commercial, JT, you should see him as he starts getting fired up.
JT, share something with us. I don't even care what it is. We need to learn about you.
Yeah, I think it's interesting when you say civilian contractor. I did spend 20 years in federal law enforcement. So that's something that obviously you did not know, that I know that Uncle T and G-Rizen.
I did not know that.
Yeah, there you go.
So you were what, like a secretary at the sheriff's office, or what? What'd you do?
No, I was an agent. I was an investigator, and then I was a manager, and I ran 2 of the largest offices in the country. So
I
there
like
you go.
it. And you still didn't kill anyone, which is very unfortunate.
I know.
How many Modelos have we down, G-Rizen? Because we're about to get to the football part of the show.
Well, I actually started at about 1:30 today, and I'm about on number 8 or 9.
Did you just start drinking around lunchtime?
So listen, I quit my no fun job, which I sold robotic equipment, automation equipment to plants, and I quit that job last Friday. So today was one of my first days that I did not, hey, I need a little break in between. I got some other things coming up in my near future, so I thought I'd take a break. So I actually had 4 of my buddies over, and we had some safety meetings, drank some beers, talked some fantasy sports. Meeting. It was a good time. Good time.
Safety meeting for what?
A safety meetings where we sit around and we smoke a fatty and we talk about stuff. We just call it safety meetings.
Okay. Aren't you part of the neighborhood patrol, though?
No, we're not a part of any neighborhood patrol, but, there was 2 neighbors were were over, so it was pretty fun.
Okay. Uncle T, have you started drinking yet, Putty? Putty?
I've got a
Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew. I don't drink through the week or on the weekends, Holden.
You don't at all? Really? No popping
No,
pills?
the golf show, they usually get me on a little rum and orange juice, AP and hoop, and now more recently, BigT and Tambo on our new show last week. You know, they get me drinking some rum and orange juices as my go-to, but normally I do not care to partake a whole lot there, Holden.
JT Hayes just got up and now he's back, and I wonder if he got another brewski. What are you drinking tonight, JT Hayes?
Drinking a couple of Coors Lights. I even at this advanced age, I like to stay in shape, and so I run a lot. I play adult baseball, and as a result, I like to have the light beer, which people make fun of, and I'm fine with that because I have very thick skin growing up in New York, and so I'm just having a couple of those tonight.
Uncle T, since you're the eldest, I will ask you and only you this question: do you pee sitting down?
What's the question?
I'm going to take that as a yes. Uncle T.
I wasn't paying attention to you. Sorry.
That's fine. No problem, buddy. Let's get into this NFL slate. It's week 1. We've been waiting a long time for this. I guess what we should do to start is more, how about some game theory? Let's start with some game theory because that's what the people come for. No doubt about it. G-Rizen, you play mainly FanDuel, right? You play mainly FanDuel.
Yes, sir.
And for the people that are subscribers or they're not, whoever the hell is listening to this right now, what is a little something that you can give them that has worked for you that they might be able to incorporate into their own process this year?
Well, I think a big part of it is just knowing what type of field you have that you're playing in, like the size of tournaments you're playing in. If you're deciding to play cash games, there's different theories behind it. But for me, I just, I limit my bankroll to large tournaments to maybe 10% or so of what I'm playing. So I don't load up in the Millie Maker and have, $300 or $400 in the Millie Maker and I'm playing, $1,200 or $1,500. I don't do that. I generally like to play like $500 or $200 single entry type tournaments where I feel that it's kind of chalky, but I can still use my tournament type mentality. And then generally I usually try to make a pivot or two off of chalk that I believe, is left for me to beat what I believe, the masses are going to do. But I think a big thing is bankroll management. If you got to look at like what you're normally playing. I mean, if you deposit $100 and all of a sudden you win 300, I'm all for you playing $100 or $200 the next week. But, if some people they'll bet everything they won the next week and then, they'll have a bad week. We all have bad weeks. It's up and down, in DFS, you have to think of it I explained to my buddies, there's a tournament at $650 on FanDuel. There's generally about 68 people in it. And 100K is up on top, 25K for third. So in reality, in the 17 weeks of 1650, that's 25K. You can come in first one time in that tournament and you are going to be ahead 3 times for 3 years. You would be able to get, so you got to have that kind of mindset. You're going to lose 13 or 14 times. And it's the couple times that you're going to be a little bit different. You got to stay to your path. And I think if you're true to what you do and just build your teams the way, don't go off your path. I think a lot of people try to. I do it in baseball sometimes, and I got to tell myself to, I may believe that I don't, there's certain parks I don't like to play in. Then all of a sudden that team is a little chalkier, and then I find myself playing. And then it fails, and I think, well, I've been fading that all year. Why am I doing that? So, yeah, I think a big thing for people is, especially novice DFS players, is just know the point scoring. FanDuel and DraftKings are different. Touchdowns are more important on FanDuel, where DraftKings, it's more of a PPR kind of thing. So, you got to kind of know what you're doing. And all the different sports are different, too, on every site. So I know a lot of us like to dabble and play different type sports. But that's the great thing about Run Pure Sports. We all got a bunch of guys that understand and know. We're all available if you want to ask a strategy type question, which I think is really good about it. And, our Discord's really smart with a lot of guys, too, that you could ask. I actually had my accountant today who said he was getting in a 50-man league for DraftKings, and he was going to be in with 10 of his buddies, and he's never played before. And he said, hey, can I just play your team? And I told him no, because generally I play teams that I'm trying to beat 100 or 200 people. But if I was playing a team where I had to beat only 10 people and they're not really that good at players, I told him I sent him a different team. So, which I tried to make a little bit more chalky, because I'm not sure those guys are going to be as chalky. So, there's strategies to it. You got to kind of know what you're doing. It's a really fun, football is fun. There's just more players playing. The prize pools are huge, where baseball tournaments are gone by 4 or 5 in the afternoon, and the lobbies are bare. But football is an exciting time of the year. A lot of money to be won. You can play in so many different levels, and you can choose what's for you. If you only want to play some quarter games, play some quarter games, stack them up, learn how to play, build different type lineups. And I think you'll learn a lot. I mean, I know us guys here, we joke and we're old. I think we've all been up and down through gambling, which I think makes us, kind of special and unique to Run Pure. Like us guys have been up and down. We've got our ass kicked by the bookies. We've been told by the old guys, you're never going to win gambling. You're never this and that, and I agree. Sports betting's hard. It's difficult. There's a lot of things that are difficult. So is playing DFS, but I think if you stick to a program and stick to what is true, I think you can have fun with it. And I think we've all had a lot of fun playing DFS, especially with all of us being here at Run Pure. So yeah, good times ahead of us. And, this football season came so fast. I haven't even really had much time concentrating so much on baseball, but here it is. It's here. I'm excited. It's fun. It's good times.
Uncle T, what can you give? I'm always interested in bankroll week 1 as opposed to the rest of the season. Like I'll come in with a set amount, and if I'm doing well, obviously the bankroll is going to go up as the season goes along. But how do you handle bankroll in week 1?
Yeah, it's actually a good question there, Holden, because while G-Rizen was kind of, giving his explanation, that was one of the things I wanted to mention at the top is week 1 is always an interesting week because pricing's been out for several weeks, right? So I think as everyone gets into their process here the last couple of weeks and trying to break things down, especially obviously this week they're crunching Saturday, Sunday, obviously they're putting lineups together. I think you're going to see a lot of guys because of the pricing came out. You're going to see guys, and we'll go through them here maybe in a little bit, guys like Pitts, the tight end at Atlanta, 4.4K. And you got some misprices in week 1. Callaway from New Orleans is another one. You're going to start to see so much more chalk than even you normally would in a regular week, in my opinion. I think from that standpoint, I think it's a little bit tougher to get different as far as I shouldn't say it's tougher to get different. You can always get different. But what I mean is I think there's going to be more chalky plays in week 1 than there will be going forward, if that makes sense. So at least in my opinion, just because of the pricing's been out and some of the prices when they did come out were incorrect. They were mispriced. So as far as my thought process in general, I'm usually in all the sports I play, everybody pretty much knows baseball and golf are my favorite. NFL is right there with it. I'm usually a 3 to 5 lineup guy for the most part. Sometimes I'll go 5 to 10 lineups depending on what it is. And, a lot of times on the NFL I will. But I'll stick in that single entry stuff like G-Rizen mentioned. For the most part, I'll stick in that 3 max or single entry. I will get in the big tournament, the $15, the $18, the $20, obviously Millie Maker, things like that. But for the most part, and even, to take a quick step back, not to pat myself on the back, but the NASCAR the other night, hoop stuff. I did 2 lineups. I did the main lineup and I did the single entry stuff, like $100 and under, and I happened to hit it. So I'm not really looking to get into those mass things other than the main tournament, if that makes sense.
JT Hayes, Uncle T's on a heater. I dislike the guy so much I didn't even want to bring it up, but he had to bring it up himself, of course, just bloviating and the gigantic ego that he brings to the show. So congratulations, Uncle T. Way to go. I'll drop you a note in Discord. JT Hayes, you're so old and so knowledgeable. You have so many things to go along with that, drawn out ball bag. So what kind of advice can you give our listeners week 1 here? What are you doing week 1 to prepare to take down some tournaments, just like Uncle T has done recently?
Yeah, Uncle T, I think it was NASCAR too that over the weekend, big hit there. So congratulations, Uncle T. Always love to see him doing well. I think, for me, I play a little bit differently. I will get in the big prize pool tournaments. I like those. And week one is tough because week one, the way that I play, I like to look at my perspective on this is more or less what we're trying to do here is gauge patterns of human behavior, right? When humans are going to excel, when they're in a position where they're going to do very well. And they don't do the same thing every single game. And so a lot of my success in NFL has come by playing players who have been popular the week before and did absolutely nothing and now get maybe a better matchup or just a lower price. So it's interesting because, there's a lot of mispricing. I think Uncle T mentioned Kyle Pitts for Atlanta, who looks to have a big role. It looks to be an offense that's going to be – and it's going to be a team that's run differently, right? You have Art Smith coming in from the Titans, but there's a difference between where there's good equity in a price and where a guy is poised to have an outlier performance, which in order to win something like the Millie Maker, in order to take something down like the $333 tournament on DraftKings, the $150, even some of these $50 and $100 single entries, you need to have 4, 5, maybe even 6 players that have their best game of the season or one of their best games of the season that week in your lineup. And so in looking at that, I look a lot at what a defense is allowing to certain positions. I look at, in addition to price point, of course. So there's a lot of things there that I think we can look at and we'll, get into as the week goes along. And you mentioned chalk and popular plays. There are some plays that are popular and you can't avoid. The mispricings that you talk about when you have injuries, for instance, in the NFL. It's more so than I think some of these, well, not more so than NBA, but where you have a running back go down and you have the team going into a great matchup against a team that has a poor running defense and you've got a $4,500 running back that is going to get 20 touches. It doesn't make any sense to fade that type of popular play. But I think some of the other plays, especially on Sundays where like this upcoming one, it's going to be 13 games. So we've got to find the players that are going to be in that 20 to 30 point range in order to take any of these tournaments down. So that's something to keep in mind.
All right. I like it. It's good background there. Let's get into the slate here. Let's talk a little bit about it. Obviously, early in the week, we're taping this on Tuesday. So it's more of just a first look. First of all, we'll just talk about the good old days and then get into the football side of things. You know what? Uncle T, do you know if this is a free show or a premium show? No one's ever told me this the year plus we've been doing this. Any idea?
I do not.
Me neither.
I do not.
Any idea?
I'm pretty sure it's a free show.
Yeah,
okay.
I think this is free.
JT, you think it's free? Okay. So
Free,
for those of you listening right now, if you're listening to this before Sunday, RPS NFL 15% off the life of your monthly subscription. So as long as Run Pure Sports is around, and if you're not dead, you get 15% off every month, your monthly subscription for life. RPS NFL 15. You get cores from these guys. Their cores. All you got to do is fill in the other 3 or 4 spots. You're getting their best plays of the week. You're getting access to all of our experts in the Discord. Anytime you go in there, you're like, hey, guys, coordinators, give me something. I got a question. They'll hit you right back, usually within an hour at the most. Up to lock shows. We got an Up to Lock show again this year in NFL. We've got articles, podcasts, videos, live shows every weekday at 2 Eastern. Every weekday at 2 Eastern, a live show too. So a lot going on here. You know what, JTAs? I'm just going to go right back to you because I've done shows with these guys. Look at the slate as much. I know you've looked at the slate. Not only have you looked at the slate, you have probably peeled to the slate already. So, my friend, is this true? Either one of the things I just told you.
Yeah, I'll tell you. So the funniest thing about this, Holden, I remember, I think the first couple of times we worked together last year, and it's probably been about a little more than a year now, right? A year and a half maybe since the middle of the beginning of baseball season last year, which was like in July. And so Holden last week is like, hey, is it true you're jumping on this podcast? I'm like, yeah, I'm really excited. He's like, hey, great. We're going to record Thursday after the Thursday night football game. Is that cool for you? I'm like, yeah, no problem. Fine. And I'm thinking to myself, that's actually perfect because there's a lot of edge this week in Major League Baseball. least I think. And I was excited. And then sure enough, today at 3:00, an email goes out and it's like, hey, this has to be recorded on Tuesdays. And Holden immediately just turned right around. No, it didn't even try to put up a fight. Didn't say, hey, we were slated to do this on Thursday. It was just like, no, we're good. Can we do it at 7:00? And I'm like, whoa. So, yeah, I had to rearrange my schedule for you, Holden. Sweet Holden, which I'm happy to do.
That story makes no sense. I asked you if you're looking at the thing. You're talking about a year and a half ago.
I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why.
This?
Hey, JT, more importantly, when the schedule got changed just a bit, right, from what us three were being told, right, as far as our scheduling, he didn't defend us and say, hey, wait a minute, you know what? We decided Thursday, da-da-da-da-da.
Pretending like he had no role.
Have you ever been threatened by a little person? That's what happened with me and JSU. JSU said, if you don't do this Tuesday, I will come up there and kick you as high as you can. I'll probably kick you in the shin. And I said, okay, you know what? Let's just do path of least resistance. The smart thing to do is to tape this after Thursday Night Football. There's no doubt about it, guys. We all know this. We're older people. We know this. We know that was the best thing. But, when the little guy tells you got to do the big show, this is when we got to do the big show, Uncle T. Don't blame us on me.
I'm going to start calling him the little guy. I'm going to tell him you called him the little guy.
He's going to listen to this. I know I'm not saying this. I know he's listening to this. So, no, I'm not afraid of that.
So I rearranged my schedule,
right,
and
good.
Yes, I have looked at the slate. I have not peeled to it because there's so many days left. We've got ownership yet to come in, but I have some thoughts. I wrote down some mispricing and some interesting things.
Would it be better to do the show on Thursday?
It depends. I mean, I always I'm a person who will listen to a podcast early in the week.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's enough of that, to be honest, Holden. So I hate to disagree with you here. I think there's a lot of podcasts that come up toward the weekend. Mm-hmm. And I think it's good to have a first look of, hey, here's what is going on this week. And here's what we think. And obviously, since this is a free show, everyone listening should know this isn't the final word because our cores aren't made on Tuesday. They're made probably Saturday afternoon into Saturday night with maybe even some changes on Sunday morning. So it's a good opportunity to listen to this podcast and get in to Run Pure Sports, RPS NFL 15, for 15% off your lifetime subscription. So take advantage of the free content, but you really have to be in there on the weekend when things are getting dialed in.
Okay, so JT has no place. G-Rizen, you haven't talked in a while. Have you looked at the slate, JT?
JT, thanks for doing Holden's job, by the way.
He's just so hurtful.
What? What did he just do? He just rambled and said nothing. He said, we don't know anything right now. Come check back later in the week.
I said two things. There were two main themes. One, there was a schedule change. Two, I'm a pro and I adapted to it. And yes, I'm ready to talk to your old crusty ass about it.
Don't blame me. G-Rizen.
I don't even care. I don't care who's responsible. Let's just get on with the work of informing the people.
We need to all go to McDonald's and have this conversation because we sound like a bunch of old guys in there having coffees and shit. That's what we need to do.
I don't do
people have coffees at McDonald's?
Arguing with each other and stuff.
What do old people do?
No, we're just arguing with Holden because that's going to be the theme of the show. We're going to just ride Holden every Tuesday night or Thursday night, whichever night we do it.
Listen, them young guys got him to eat a hot chip. Us old guys can come up with something better.
He was supposed to eat a hot dog too on a bet too,
and
he didn't pay up.
Dog. That's just gross.
He didn't pay up either.
Can I get some thoughts on the slate? Anything?
I mean, I've looked at it a little bit. I'm with these guys. I mean, there's a handful of games that are definitely interesting. There's a handful of games you can probably throw out and that you're not interested in playing any plays from. I mean, like Jacksonville and Houston. I mean, throw it out. There's
what? That is the game of the week, buddy.
You're crazy.
This is how we're going to pull down $1 million. We're going to go Lawrence, Chenault, Jones, bring it back with nobody from the Texans. We're going to play the Jaguars defense. We're going to do the most cockamamie thing ever, and we're going to pull $1 million here.
Listen, I would, normally agree with you, but I believe for a team to get you there, you got to have a team on the other side that can somewhat score some points. And you look at that Houston team, and holy shit, they suck. So, yeah, I mean,
I don't know if I'm
they're
crossing it
gonna-
off, though. I don't know if I'm crossing off.
There's going to
actually.
be I'm guaranteeing you right now, I'm going to have somebody from that game because everyone's going to be like G-Rizen. I don't want to touch this game. You know what? Somebody's going to have a big game from that one. Somebody's going to do it, G-Rizen. We got to find them.
I mean, you got to find those games that are going back and forth, that are score quick, that have turnovers. Turnovers are what we want. So, I don't know. I mean, if Jacksonville gets up, they're less than 3-point favorites. I mean, Houston stinks. I think Jacksonville, even though they stink too, but I think Houston has the potential to be 0-16.
I may like somebody in that game too, Holden. So don't scratch it off just yet.
No, let's do it. Let's hear it, man. Let's hear. Who are you playing from that game? Because I'm telling you right now, I don't know about if you're playing Lawrence, you're going to need a stack. But I think Chenault and Jones for me. It's nice that DJ Chark is back there. I get it. I mean, James Robinson. Laugh all you want at this game. There's a piece that's going to be on a winner. So what do you got, Uncle T?
I'm trying to fix my damn lighting here. All right, what was the question?
So JT, who from this game do you think?
Said Uncle T.
No, you had your chance. You fixed your goddamn light. You asked me what the question was again. You knew what the question was.
JT, go ahead.
You're out. Stick a fork in Uncle T and his bush. JT Hayes.
Flag. That's a
Who can we
15-yard
play from
penalty.
this game? Who can we play from this dog shit game?
Yeah, I mean, you have two, teams that are expected to not necessarily be competitive, certainly not for playoff spots. I mean, I think you look at one of the spots that I've always liked to attack, especially early in the season, are defenses against rookie quarterbacks or defenses against, these veteran quarterbacks that got signed by teams that are clearly tanking. Both of these defenses, Jacksonville 2.7 on DraftKings, Houston 2.1 on DraftKings. And then I think you look at, for sure, not necessarily Houston offense, because I think they're going to be hurtful to watch. I think it's going to be a painful team to watch. But this Jacksonville, you talked about, you mentioned James Robinson. Now that Etienne has been injured, this is a team where it's probably, I think, and I heard this somewhere else. I don't remember where exactly, but it resonated with me. So I want to give credit to the unnamed source that I'm using. It's probably one of the only games where Jacksonville is going to be favored, where Jacksonville is likely to have a lead here. And you could see them using a lot of James Robinson. I could see them turning Lawrence loose to just let him get the feel of the NFL in this first game. And I think that the receivers are underpriced here. So you look at Chenault, I think he's right around 5K on DraftKings. So I think, I'm not saying you would load up on this game, but James Robinson at 6'4" is interesting. The defenses are interesting. And then, the receivers on Jacksonville are interesting here in this spot.
Uncle T, we don't have to talk about this game. I just want you to listen. If you can't hear me, go get your hearing aids and let's keep going. What do you want to do? Is there anything from this game you can do? I just think it's going to be really tough to pick the wide receiver on Jacksonville that's going to go off, because one of them, in my estimation, and James Robinson's got to be in the circle of trust too.
Well, yeah. And again, one of the things we'll talk about quite a bit on this show all year long, like we did last year, is game theory, though, right? We're going to sit and talk about that's what NFL is for the most part. You're trying to figure out how games are going to go, whether it's a 55 total or whether it's 45 total or whatever, So I do agree with one of the things that JT brought up, though. And again, I'm not saying I'm going to go here either. Again, this is Tuesday. We're looking at this. But since we talked about the Jacksonville game that you said that we'll just skip right over, I think JT and I are going to give a couple reasons. I think if Jacksonville can get the lead, and you're right, one of those receivers could go off to get them the lead. And I do think Jacksonville will get the lead. I really like James Robinson in this spot. And then if on the other side, if you think, which I do, that the Texans are going to probably get down in this game and possibly – again, it's early. We don't know anything. But if they get down, I'm really high on Brandon Cooks a little bit because, look, you got to look at if they're going to be behind, and they will be all year. It's not just this week. When they get – Brandon Cooks is going to get 10, 12, 13, 14 targets. And I'm not saying he's a stud player, but obviously he's got big playability. gets down the field, can break some long ones. Tyrod Taylor isn't the greatest. Is it Tyrod Taylor that's getting the start?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, he's not the greatest quarterback. So just to kind of, without kind of belaboring this point, I kind of like James Robinson on the Jacksonville side a little bit, and I like Cooks a little bit on the other side, with the expectation in my mind that they're going to be behind and he's going to get a boatload of targets.
Wow. Your nephew right now is probably throwing things because we led this discussion off with Houston and Jacksonville, but it's G-Rizen's fault because he did not want to keep it in there. So it's all your fault, G-Rizen. We didn't have to do this, but we did. JT Hayes said he had some mispriced guys. I just want to bring one guy up before we get going. Raheem Mostert is probably my favorite player to watch play when he's healthy. And he really is the Tyreek Hill of running backs. I say this, and you can laugh all you want, but the ball in his hands, there's only one guy that was faster than him. As a matter of fact, he tied Tyreek Hill's top speed last year. He's just a home run hitter. He scored 12 touchdowns last year. And remember, he hasn't been that healthy. So what is it? He had all 18 last year. Did he get that? I don't think he got it. He missed a couple of games. His hamstrings were bothering him. To me, when Raheem Mostert is healthy, JT Hayes, I got to play Raheem Mostert. I got to put him in there. He's just too much of a home run hitter for me to leave him off. Now, if I'm putting in 5 lineups, I'll probably have him in 2. I probably will. What do you think of Mostert, and who are some guys that are mispriced right now? Because I'm looking at Mostert. The dude's 5.8K on DraftKings. He's cheaper than Antonio Gibson, Myles Gaskin, Joe Mixon. I think he has every bit the upside, and he's only 6-1 on FanDuel too.
Yeah, I like Mostert. Obviously, it's good that it's week 1 and he's fully healthy. The concern always with right now San Francisco, right? I mean, I think it's just a couple of days ago, right, that they finally named a starting quarterback. There have been rumors that you may see different packages there where Garoppolo doesn't, play every single snap. So it's definitely something. I mean, it's a great matchup. Their matchup week 1, you really can't argue with here. And the receivers are priced down as well. I think this mid-range across the board here for week 1, Ryan Tannehill in a matchup against Arizona, who plays very, very fast, and he's got an additional weapon now. Julio Jones is as healthy as he's going to be all season long because it's week 1. You've got A.J. Brown there as well. Jalen Hurts in a matchup against the Falcons. The Falcons seemingly have this talent to just be able to find guys who absolutely can't tackle and put them out on defense. Seems like they've got another bunch of those guys. We talked about Robinson, Joe Mixon at 6'2". There's been a lot of reports about Joe Burrow not being as mobile as certainly as he was before the knee injury, and maybe early in the season they may lean a little bit more on Mixon. And then Antonio Gibson, 5.9 in a matchup against the Chargers week 1, and it looks like they're going to give Antonio Gibson quite a bit more work even than they did last year. The receiver core is loaded. The Niners receivers are in that mid-range. Robbie Anderson, a return against the Jets, which was one of the best offenses to pick on for offensive passing last year. Don't expect that to change all that much. He's sitting at 5'7". Jerry Jeudy in a good matchup against the Giants at 4'8". And then you get to tight end, and you've got guys like Dallas Goedert, again, a matchup against the Falcons at 4'8". Pitts we talked about. Tyler Conklin with Irv Smith out in a very good matchup for the Vikings. So he's just 2.9. There's a number of mispriced plays here. It's just a matter of trying to figure out and decide which one of these are going to get the most volume and narrowing it down that way.
You bring it up. I listen to you talk, and this is a big thing from RPS. And if you're not a member, you've missed out on this because there's been a lot of discussions. I would love to put in 7,000 lineups a week and play every goddamn team and every player, but it doesn't make sense. Like, you're not going to win that way. You're spreading yourself too thin. You're not going to have a good game plan. Fine, you can do 150s. You still need to come up with a player pool. Take a stand. You have to take a stand in DFS. In NFL, on a 13-game slate, take a stand on the teams that you want. And it's just like that. Don't try and, I like this guy too. There's a million other guys you're going to like. But you don't succumb to throwing them in the lineup just so you can say, oh, I had him in a lineup. You can't do that. So G-Rizen, that's one thing I wanted to bring up. Again, I think it's something more than anything. It's honestly the number one thing that I've taken away that's made me a better DFS player from these guys. Tony, JSU Hoop, all of them. Take a stand, man. That's what you need to do. And if I'm probably going to play 4 or 5. I'm going to go 4 or 5 lineups, and that's it. I got to center it around 4 or 5 teams max, come up with a couple of one-offs, and that's about it. So can you talk about that a little bit and then get into a play or two? I wanted to talk about Najee Harris. We can get into that in a minute. But what about taking a stand? To me, it's every bit as important as anything else in game theory.
Right. I mean, when you're trying to build your lineup, you almost got to let it almost kind of tell its story on what your stand is going to be. So, if you think that week, for example, Aaron Rodgers is really chalky with Devontae Adams and everybody's playing the passing game and everybody's on it. Well, to be a little different, you can play some chalk at some other places and then decide to go Aaron Jones instead of the passing attack and then try to be different, because it's possible that, the game could go a different way than everybody expects. Those are the type plays. If you have a conviction about something, maybe you decide, you know what, I think this game is going to possibly go this way, as we were talking game theory. So you got to kind of integrate that in your lineup. So if you believe a team is like a mid-level team that's not being talked about as chalk, it's not a bad idea to stack them up. Play a quarterback, 2 pass catchers. Don't play a quarterback, receiver, and then a running back unless that running back's going to catch you a lot of balls out of the backfield, because you're limiting yourself at that point for your upside. So, yeah, I think a lot of times when you make a conviction on a couple teams you like, you're like in baseball. We always joke and talk about, we always have been doing these shows now all summer about certain things. Like we already know now, certain one of us are fading Coors Field every time when we know it's going to be chalky. We know if we're in on it, we're all going all in. We know like most 90% of the time we're going to fade certain things and in certain situations. So football is kind of similar, I believe. But I think the game theory is really important. Building your lineup, like you said, take a conviction to a game you like and stack it up and go for it. So I don't pussyfoot around. Bet a game you like and go for it.
Don't pussyfoot around. Okay, very good. Uncle T. So you know what, G-Rizen, I want to stick with you then. Rookies is what I want to ask you about. Now, last year, I go back, there's always going to be some dude that scores 3 touchdowns that you're not thinking of, and that guy's going to win the Millie Maker, okay? But that's the Millie Maker. There's single entry tournaments, there's 3 max, there's 5 max, there's a whole bunch of different things that we can get into. So rookies, is there anybody that you have confidence in playing in week 1? And there's a lot of them, but listen, Najee Harris, obviously the guy that sticks out more than anybody else. Maybe there's a rookie wide receiver or somebody you can bring up. Kyle Pitts is just, there's been a big buzz around Kyle Pitts. People saw him catch a ball in the preseason on national television. Now he's the greatest thing ever. Listen, I love me some Kyle Pitts. But are we expecting him to be in the Millie Maker winner? Maybe it is. Maybe he isn't. Any rookies you'd feel comfortable starting in week 1?
Yeah, I think the rookie class was pretty good coming out last year. I mean, there's a few guys you can look at Jamar Chase. We got Burrow coming back. That offense is really good. I mean, I've heard some rumblings, he can't catch the ball. I mean, I don't believe any of that bullshit. That kid's going to get the ball in a, kind of short slant or a screen pass, and that kid's fast as lightning. So I do like Jamar Chase. You talk about Kyle Pitts. I think he's probably, of all the rookies, probably the chalkiest just because of his price. He's a tight end. I think we're always fishing for that low price tight end. So I actually think that Atlanta and Philly game does have a potential to be one of the higher scoring games. I actually like Jalen Hurts a little bit. We were talking about looking ahead, and I was thinking, if I was going to do a stack, I kind of like Jalen Hurts, and then even bouncing it back with another rookie, Devontae Smith. So I like the rookie there. I think he's going to be a matchup problem for some teams. I think they may need to adjust. That kid's pretty quick. And then I like maybe one of the tight ends to throw in there, and then I don't mind bouncing it back with some Atlanta, maybe throw in a Ridley to bounce back. I kind of like that, but yeah, I think there's all kinds of rookies you can look at playing. I know the Jets have, isn't it Michael Carter, I believe?
Mm-hmm. They got a three-man backfield, though. I like Carter later in the year. Right now, it's a little suspect.
Yeah, but I think that's going to be a hot by committee, and that's what you said. Somebody's going to win the Millie Maker. That somebody he rips one off for 70 or 80 yards in one of his first few drives. They're just going to keep giving him the rock, and at that point, you're going to have yourself, and that's the thing. Like winning the Millie Maker in the first few weeks, there's going to be so many unknowns when we're coming into the season. There's a lot of coaching changes that have happened. You look at like a team like New England. I mean, they had quite a few guys that decided to sit out for COVID. So now they added some free agents. You added a year as a free agents. Now you're looking at a team last when they were at their full strength. Now all of a sudden they have, 15 to 12 different guys. So I think there's going to be some unknowns. And, I think as the season goes on, I'm kind of hoping COVID doesn't really play a role because they're talking about guys having to miss a few days and up to 10 days. So it's going to be an interesting season, but I'm excited for it.
Uncle T, let's get back to you now. And I do want to ask you about, let's talk about rookies for a second. I don't remember what I did last year, to be honest with you, besides for week one. JSU had Aaron Rodgers, and I had my biggest week ever. It was great. So I'll be copying and pasting his core and filling around that. But I wonder if I'm going to have any rookies in there. Najee Harris, week one against Buffalo. Kyle Pitts, we just heard G-Rizen talking about him. There are some wide receivers that could have a role in their offense too. Generally, what's your take on rookies in week one? And is there anybody you can consider right now?
Yeah, real quick, if I could take a step back, just while you guys were talking and making some good points, I was kind of looking at this running back pool in general, and I'm finding a lot of guys between that 53, 5,400 up to like 64, 6,500 range that I really am starting to kind of, I'm obviously, like I said, just starting to dig into this stuff today, but I'm really starting to think that there's a lot of guys here in this range that add and bring a lot of value to what we may need by Sunday and making our lineups. I mean, you guys mentioned some of the guys, but you got even Mike Davis at 5,400. You mentioned Mostert already, Gibson, Carson, Mixon as you go up, James Robinson. I mean, it just feels like, and you mentioned Najee Harris to lead into that. In your rookie, kind of comment, I kind of usually take a wait and see approach for the most part with these guys. So I agree with the point earlier, and I'm a big Pitts guy for Atlanta. I think he's going to be a stud player, but I'm not necessarily having to target him this week. I think he's going to be pretty popular for sure. I think he's going to maybe be even over-owned than what he should be in week one. And could he go out and get, 6 catches for 90 yards and a touchdown? Absolutely he can. But also in week one, could he go out and get 3 catches for 30 yards? Yeah, he probably could do that too. So to answer your question, I usually go a little bit underweight on the rookies in week one. But, G-Rizen mentioned a lot of good players. I mean, you've got Jamar Chase at 4,800 against Minnesota. But I think the more interesting thing, and I'd love to get you guys' take on this, is, and we'll probably be talking about this quite a bit this year, when we're talking about this Bengals team, and I'm here in Cincinnati, and, you got 3 guys in Boyd, Chase, and Higgins, all 3 good receivers, right? 2 young guys. Boyd's been around for a few years. They're 5,200, 4,800, 4,700. So how are we going to, in week 1 or week 5 or week 8, how are we going to differentiate these 3? Will one or the other, or 1 or 2 of the guys take the lead as far as targets, as far as, how Burrow is going to divvy up the passes? So I think that's going to be an interesting dynamic because, again, there's 3 really good receivers, but you just don't know who's going to get it from week to week. So I do like Waddle quite a bit. If you're asking me maybe about one guy, I wouldn't say off the radar, but maybe as a guy I wouldn't mind playing in week 1, it would probably be Waddle at 3,600 going up against the Patriots.
Okay, very good. Anything to add to that, JT? I mean, we're coming up against it. I got to start melting my coconut oil here in a minute, getting it nice and warm. It's going to be good.
It'll take you more than a minute.
Why? Put it in the microwave.
Just one thing, one final note on the Kyle Pitts thing is that they do have the I guess the biggest variable here is you've got a brand new head coach coming in from Tennessee. Now he loved running the ball in Tennessee, obviously. Him and Derrick Henry's talent made Derrick Henry a huge superstar. So I can see where, Mike Davis might be an interesting play here. We just don't know what's going to happen. And then on Jamar Chase in Cincinnati, obviously you have Tyler Boyd at just 5.2. Minnesota's defense, not exactly great last year, but you've got Boyd and Higgins, and now you have Chase as well. So you're looking for, yes, he's 4.8, but does he get enough volume early in the season for him to matter in week one? So there's a couple of things there. You've got a number of situations, we always do in the NFL, a number of situations week one where we have new coaches that we have to kind of figure out exactly how they're going to use the play mix, pass first run, how they're going to use some of these new guys that are entering into their system. And even with Pitts and Atlanta, right, you've got a pretty good stable there of receivers, although not quite as good as in Cincinnati. So it's interesting.
Yeah, speaking of Cincinnati, I think this week, I don't know if they're going to be the chalk, but there's going to be a lot of people on the Minnesota Vikings. I just think you got to. Couple of big injuries in the secondary. Now Trey Waynes is out for the opener against the Vikings. So I'll just throw that out there too as the week goes on and we're developing, player pools and stuff like that. I think that's a team that's going to kind of pop out a little bit as the week goes on. G-Rizen, any final thoughts here, buddy?
I'm just looking around at some of the pricing. We don't even have anybody on FanDuel that's over 9K. So, the pricing's pretty soft. So, they want you to be able to play pretty much who you want. And, so it's going to be, you look at some of these mid running backs, we don't generally have as many 5 and low 6K running backs that are going to get as many totes and a lot of receivers that are under 5K that, a couple you mentioned. So, there's a lot of cheap guys. So I think that's going to pull a lot of guys to some of these high end type, quarterbacks and the Devontae Adams and, guys like that. So, that's one thing you got to think about when people are building their teams. Like if there's a few low end guys, like who's everybody going to go to next? Like automatically, they're going to automatically put in the Mahomes. They're going to put in them kind of guys. So that's what we were talking about, taking a conviction and maybe going a different way. Like maybe you're talking about a Burrow, pairing them up with a couple guys, or maybe you go after a Cousins with some, like maybe that's a little different. But that's what we're kind of talking about. I think that's what we mean by, taking convictions and knowing what, a lot of the people are going to do. But yeah, so I think this week is kind of soft, but we'll see. Some of these guys' pricing we'll notice that the season goes on. It's going to change dramatically. So I think that is one thing to pay attention to too, because, sometimes guys get bumped up pretty high, and it's at that point, they're not the same value that they were before.
All right, Uncle T, final thoughts, buddy.
Yeah, one thing real quick to bring up, and this is a name not necessarily for this week, but I want to bring up this name because I think this kid down the road is going to be pretty decent, is Rondale Moore. He's a rookie at Arizona, and I realize he's behind a stud in Hopkins and a guy in A.J. Green that obviously left Cincinnati, and he's going to get quite a bit of an opportunity, obviously, to log a lot of minutes and plays. But again, I just think this kid's got a lot of talent. And if you do see an injury to A.J. Green, which he's been injury prone the last couple of years, I'm not necessarily thinking that he may be that next guy in line. So he's 3K this week, maybe not in play this week, but I do like this kid going forward if he can get some opportunity, especially in that system where, like JT mentioned earlier, they play at a fast pace. We know that Arizona plays at one of the faster paces in the league, and I really kind of like this kid. But no, as far as just some final comments, I think one of the things that we didn't get into too much tonight that we will in the future shows as well is some of the game totals and stuff. In the early slate, I think there's maybe 9 games. You got the big total in the Tennessee-Arizona game, and then you got 2 of the other biggest totals on the board in the 4:00 games, which is the Chiefs and Browns, and Green Bay and the Saints. So sometimes I don't know how you guys do it, but I kind of get in my mind that I'd like to have a couple bullets left in my lineup going into that 4:00 game. But I don't know how you guys think about that. Maybe it's something for another show, but you got 2 of the biggest totals is what I'm getting at in the
definitely
4:00
for another show, because I'm going to go get laid in about 30 minutes. JT, any final thoughts?
That's debatable, but
It's not debatable. I'm telling you.
It is.
There's
I
no
agree with Uncle
debate.
T.
It is going to happen.
They cashed his credit card online. It's all set up. He's good.
I
heard he hasn't been close. I heard little birdie told me that you
paid
haven't
for
been
sex
closing
one
real
time,
good.
and now it's like every time they think it is. All right, JT Hayes.
Hey,
I
you
heard
paid,
you haven't
you're
been
not paying
closing,
for
Holden.
sex. You're
Fuck you
paying for
guys.
him to go away.
RPS NFL
I mean, you're
15.
definitely no
JT
Mariano
Hayes,
Rivera.
JT Hayes doesn't get a final word. You guys are assholes.
No,
We'll see
JT's
you later.
going to get a
Sign
final
up the
word.
site.
Let's go, JT.
It's amazing. No, we're done. I hit stop.
Taking the victory lap here with our boy Big T. Massive takedown PGA last night. Shipped the Millie.
The Twins got the job done for our boy Hoop. Won him $100K. Won him a live final seat.
JSU chipped $200K on, I think, just $1,000 worth of entries. He had a monster night.
Anytime we see members crush like this, we're excited.
Last night, one of our most loyal subscribers from the beginning, Jay Love, took down $20K.
I want to give a shout out to Redmen, who won over $50,000 on opening day.
Blind Bandit took down the $100,000 top prize.
We had someone win a live final seat.
It was one of those days where it's like going 5x or 10x on your money. It wasn't enough to get enough love in the Discord.
Record 62 took down the Millie Maker.
I don't even know if this heater's ever going to end.
Some of these other sites are just boring you to death.
I like how other sites nickel and dime you for every penny they can get.
Tons of the members have given tickets and membership on their own. Like, we're not telling them to do that. They're just doing it for good mojo.
You love to see it. We love the good mojo. And
The mojo is what the mojo is.
I give you credit for still having that happen. We appreciate it.
Wait till we ship tonight. I might never take it off.